Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah alamin wa salatu wa salam ala ashrafil anbiya wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We're going to cover sections continue a few notes from the section of Barzakh, inshallah, and then talk about the concept of liqa'ullah. In the last lesson, we covered a little bit about Barzakh, an introduction to Barzakh, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduces the concept of Barzakh in the Quran. With several verses, وَمِنْ وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَى يَوْمٍ يُبْعَثُونَ, and a few other verses as well. بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ, for instance. And I mentioned that the word barzakh is not an Arabic word, it's a foreign word. Its roots are difficult to trace. Some say Suryani, others have related to Hebrew. Allah knows best. But we described barzakh as being an alam or dimension where we don't know exactly the extent of its existence, in the sense that what does it cover? Is it included within the Jabarut, or is the Jabarut included within the Barzakh? Seems the other way around. And we talked a little bit about that last week. Now, I want to continue from page 54, where the Shaykh talks about different types of death, tawfiyah. And the Shaykh says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, قال المصنف رحمه الله تعالى وانفعنا بعلومه. He says, وقد جاءت التوفية في القرآن على ثلاثة أنواع. He says that tawfiyah, or death, a form of death, is mentioned in the Quran in there are three different modes of tawfiyah. You could call it three different modes of tawfiyah, of death. If you want to translate tawfiyah as death, that is. Or three different modes of transitioning from one dimension to the other. The first he mentions is tawfiyah to know, this transitioning that occurs in sleep, or when one enters a state of sleep from this world to the other. He says, قال تعالى هو الذي يتوفاكم بالليل ويعلم ما جرحتم بالنهار. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He causes death to come upon you, or هو الذي يتوفاكم بالليل, or God takes you from one dimension to another in the evening time, in the night time. Now this clearly is referring to sleep, and God Himself is saying هو الذي يتوفاكم, that God is the one who does this. So it's quite interesting actually that the soul, God is saying it's not you doing that independently, that God has created that process of your soul leaving the body and then traversing or transitioning to another realm. He says, وَبِهَذَا التَّوْفِيَةِ تَتَوَجَّهُ الرُّوحُ لِعَالَمٍ آخَرٍ. That through this form of transitioning, the soul moves from one dimension to another, لِعَالَمٍ آخَرٍ. مَعَ بَقَائِهَا فِي الْجِسْمِ. But interestingly, the body still has some connection to that soul. مع بقائها في الجسم فالحياة ثابتة في الجسم لا تفارقه. In this form of tawfiyah, if you want to call that, this form of transition, the Shaykh says life remains, of course, in the body, and life does not leave the body, i.e. the body is still alive here. There's still a form of connection between the two. لكنها توجهت إلى عالم برزخي. It's as if the soul has turned its attention to a different dimension. بين عالم اليقظة وبين عالم الأرواح. And he says this sleep takes place between the realm of wakefulness and the realm of the souls, al-arwah. This is his kind of speculation, I assume. But here he's you could say in a different way that when you sleep, your soul travels to another place and is still loosely connected to the body. So the body stays alive. And we talked about that in earlier lessons. The next type of transitioning, tawfiyatul maut, is death itself. Allahu yatawaf. Now what's interesting is the word tawfiyah. The reason we keep using the word tawfiyah, because God uses this word in three different instances in the Quran. And they refer to three different modes of tawfiyah, death or transitioning. Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtiha, that God allows for souls to transition when they die, meaning when the connection between body and soul is severed, that God is the one who allows them to transition. وبهذه التوفية تقبض الروح من الجسم, that with this transitioning the soul is actually removed from the body. فلا حياة فيه, and the body does not remain alive anymore, it has no life. كما كان من قبل فتلتحق الروح بعالم البرزخ بين الدنيا والآخرة. Now the soul now enters a dimension that exists between, the Shaykh says, between the dunya and the akhirah, between this dimension, the corporeal dimension, the dimension where we live now, and the dimension of the hereafter. And I'm going to later go on to this verse in the Quran. من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون. Very interesting verse that touches upon this idea of what actually happens in barzakh. The last one that the Shaykh mentions, the third type of transitioning, وتوفية فيها قبض الروح والجسم معا, where there's a really interesting topic and it's related to the return of Jesus Christ alayhi salam. And although that's a topic in and of itself, and the Shaykh even says at the end of it, after mentioning, he spends a couple of pages on it, and then he says, you know, this is more related to, he said this is not the place to discuss it, about the general position of, the general position taken by Sunni Orthodoxy of one of the signs of the Day of Judgment being the return of Jesus Christ to the earth, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he didn't die. And the Shaykh says, وَالْأَخْذُ بِهِمَا إِلَى عَالَمٍ آخَرٍ, that God took body and soul, the whole person of Sayyidina Isa, to another place. قال تعالى في عيسى عليه السلام, Allah says, إِذْ قال اللَّهُ يَا عِيسَى إِنِّي مُتَوَفِّيكَ وَرَافِعُكَ إِلَيَّ وَمُطَهِّرُكَ مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. There's a whole discussion on this. The Shaykh gives that Allah says in the Quran, oh Jesus, indeed I will mutawafika, I will transfer you, you could say. Now, so this is a debatable verse. The ulama have discussed this. Does mutawafika mean here that God will cause death upon Jesus Christ, or did he? The Shaykh interprets that meaning, God, I will take you body and soul and raise you body and soul to another place away from your enemies. Now, this first word mutawafika has been debated, and the majority position being taken that that Jesus Christ didn't die. Other positions being that Jesus was given death, a very weak position, and that he will still return at the end of time. So there is a debate there. But like I said, the majority agreeing that mutawafika here in this context is, without opening up the theological discussion on it. And the Shaykh has a couple of pages on that form of tawfiyah, at the end of which he says, فَنُزُولُ عِيسَى عَلَيْهِ السَّلَامُ مِنْ عَلَامَاتِ السَّاعَةِ الْكُبْرَى, that the return of Jesus is from the major signs of the Day of Judgment, كما جاء في الأحاديث النبوية متواترة, as has been mass transmitted in the hadith. وليس هنا موضع ذكرها موضع ذكرها, and he said this is not the place to discuss it. So he kind of wraps it up there. Now, the section that I want to look at today is this liqa'ullah, the next section, which is a section on meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the first stage of the soul, when the soul leaves the body, what happens immediately to the soul? The Shaykh has a section called liqa'ullah, meeting God, from Laki Yalqa. اعلم أن لقاء الله تعالى هو حق, that meeting God is a reality. وقد دلت النصوص القرآنية والنبوية على أن هناك عدة لقاءات يلقى بها العبد ربه, that there are multiple occasions where the servant will meet God after passing away. The first one is لقاء العبد ربه عقب الموت, and a lot of people don't talk about this. I don't know why, it's quite interesting. When discussing death, that the first meeting that takes place between us and God is immediately after death. immediately after death. Then ثم هناك لقاء في الحشر, then in the hereafter. ثم لقاء عند الحساب, then a meeting at the point of hisab, then عند الميزان وعند عقبات الصراط, and then several other moments as well. Now, seeing God and meeting God are two different ideas. I want to kind of differentiate between the two, seeing God and meeting God here. When will one see God? Meaning see God. The seeing God element, the whole question, will we ever see God, is a theological question. The Sunni tradition, I want to call it the Sunni orthodoxy, being the Ash'ari, the Maturidi, and the school of Ahlul Hadith, the early school of Ahlul Hadith, were all of the opinion, except for some shadh riwayat, but are all of the opinion that one will see God in the hereafter. By hereafter, I mean not on the day of judgment itself, but beyond that, seemingly in Jannah. I'm talking about seeing God here. There was another opinion amongst, for instance, the Mu'tazila, a particular group, early group, that were not considered an orthodox group. They were considered a heretical group, who believe that, and this is also the belief of the Shia, by the way, that God will never be seen. There will never be ru'yatullah. That why? And they use the verse لا تدرك الأبصار وهو يدرك الأبصار, that no eye can encompass him, or no eye can contain God. And they use that particular verse to try to prove their point. But we have other verses in the Quran, وَإِلَى رَبِّهَا نَاظِرَةٌ, for instance, that the Sunni Orthodox have always used, and many hadith. Razi and others present a lot of logical arguments and rational arguments for proving that God can be seen. So it seems that that's reserved for the day of, beyond the day of judgment, for Jannah, according to the orthodoxy. Has anybody seen God already? There's a debate about that. And the debate is, the debate really circulates around the discussion on Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. Did the Prophet see God on the night of Mi'raj? I take the position that he didn't. There's a position of Fakhruddin al-Razi as well, and the majority of the traditional scholars took that position, and it's the majority of opinion of Sahaba as well. Seemingly, there is a minority position amongst the Sahaba, a minority position, that the Prophet saw Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the night of Ascension. I believe it's a minority opinion. It's a valid opinion amongst the Sunni school, Sunni orthodoxy, sorry. It's a valid position, but I go with seemingly the evidences are, in my understanding, they're more one-sided here. Qurtubi and others, Tabari, all kind of lean towards the fact that he didn't see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is also the position of the wife of the Prophet, Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, and been a position of Ajillah min ulama, many of the great ulama. It's not a point of aqidah anyway. It's not a point of belief, has nothing to do with belief. It's just a matter of what position one takes in terms of hadith. And it's not a position of love as well, by the way. This being sold as, oh, those who love the Prophet, then you'll have to say all these ulama and all these Sahaba who believe that the Prophet didn't see Allah, don't love the Messenger of God. It's a preposterous argument that some people present. I believe it's a majority opinion. The minority position is there, that the Prophet did see Allah. To me, it doesn't make a difference either way. But bin al-tahqiq, yani, if you look at the evidences, then it seems clear to me that the evidences don't point that way. All those verses in the Quran in Surah Al-Najm, وَقَابَ قَوْسَيْنِ وَأَدْنَى, the majority of ulama interpreted that to be Gabriel, not God. That between the Prophet and the angel was that distance, not between the Prophet and God. There's a minority position. By the way, this minority position is followed by some of ulama ajillah, some great scholars as well, like Sheikh Abdullah Sirajuddin himself follows the position that the Prophet did see Allah. And there are some other ulama as well, but like I said, it's not a majority opinion, it's a minority opinion. So I want to clear that up first. And that will fit in well if we take the majority opinion about that the sight of God, Ru'yatullah, is left for Al-Jannah, is left for the garden in the hereafter. And it's with the greatest reward that the mu'min is given based on that. But that's a brief overview of the issue. If you want to know more about the issue, I published a book some years ago called and it's being re-released now, so look out for it. It'll be out probably next month, inshallah. A new edition of it, the updated typeset, called The Prophet's Night Journey and Heavenly Ascent, written by Sayyid Muhammad bin Ali al-Maliki, translated by Dr. Jibril Haddad. And there's an appendix in the end of that book that discusses did the Messenger of God see Allah, by Ibn Qayyim. So that's kind of, again, talking about the difference between liqa and ru'ya. Seeing God, and liqa, meeting God, i.e. being in divine communion. They're two different ideas, I believe. Yeah. So, and by the way, I'm talking about seeing God truly, by the way, in Jannah. Seeing God in one's dream, according to the Sunni tradition, is possible, but it's a form that is not God, i.e. God communicates with the abd, but whatever form you see, that form is not God. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala states, the Shaykh mentions, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ وَأَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. And talks this description of the believers that believe that they will meet Allah Jalla wa'ala. أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ, that they will meet their God. So this word liqa is mentioned in the Quran again. Those people who believe, يُقِنُونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُ رَبِّهِمْ عَقِبَ مَوْتِهِمْ, those who believe that they will meet God after they die. أَنَّهُمْ إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ, that they will return to God يوم القيامة, on the day of judgment, بَعْدَ حَشْرِهِمْ مِنْ قُبُورِهِمْ, after they've been resurrected from their graves. Then he quotes a hadith, a very interesting hadith, and I want to talk a little bit about this hadith. That the hadith mentions that when the soul is taken out of a believer, two angels meet him, and they say things like, what a blessed soul. And in another narration, they say, what a blessed soul. And they take the soul. And in one narration, they even clothe him in particular clothing of Al-Jannah, or from the righteous people. And the Shaykh mentions, وَإِنَّ الْكَافِرِ إِذَا خَرَجَتْ رُوحُهُ, that when the soul of a disbeliever leaves, it's cursed by the angels, and they say, what a wretched soul, ruh khabitha, that's come from the earth. انطلقوا به إلى آخر الأجل. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said, that وقال أبو هريرة فرد رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام بريتة كانت عليه على أنفه هكذا، وريته هي ثوب رقيق أو الملأ، فعل ذلك كما هو شأن من شم رائحة خبيثة كيف يضع على أنفه ما يمنع تلك الرائحة. That the Messenger of God, very interestingly, وقد جاء في حديث أبو هريرة, there's another hadith here as well about saying Abu Hurairah, إن الميت تحضره الملكان, that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, first it talks about this idea of the Prophet ﷺ covering his face, that there's a, in that particular realm, there's a stench of the evil soul. There's a stench of the evil soul. And then he quotes a hadith, interesting hadith again, that فَإِذَا كَانَ الرَّجُلُ صَالِحٌ, that if a person is righteous, the angels say, أُخْرُجِي, that leave, O pure soul, كانت في الجسد الطيب, that was in a pure body, leave Hamida, praising rather. Abshiri biroh wa rayhan wa rabbin ghair ghadban, that glad tidings of a peace that's to come upon you, and also of a Lord that's not angry with you. That as soon as the angels come upon a person when they're dying, this is what they say to a pious and a righteous soul. Now here I want to very interesting talk about this idea of where does the soul actually go? Where does the soul go? There's a hadith that's read from Imam al-Bukhari about the night, about the heavenly ascension to Baytul Maqdis. But when the Prophet went to Baytul Maqdis, he said, then I reached a place in Baytul Maqdis, and it's the place where al-Makan alladhi, the righteous soul ascends. The righteous soul ascends after it passes away. Now, so if we consider that when the righteous soul is removed, it has to go somewhere, has to travel somewhere, that there's a place in Baytul Maqdis that it ascends from. And if it's a wretched soul, it's taken there and it's returned from that place. Its name is not in the qa'imah, it's not on the list, and it's damned back into the earth, so to speak. And there it ascends upwards, and and after the ascent, or at the end of the ascension, there's liqa'ullah, where it meets Allah Jalla wa Ala. It says, فَرِوَايَةِ أَنَّ سُبْحَانَهُ يَتَجَلَّى لِمُؤْمِنٍ بِلِقَاءِ فِي ذَلِكَ الْمَوْطِنِ. That after it ascends the seven heavens, وَحَتَّى يُنْتَحَ بِهَا إِلَى السَّمَاءِ السَّابِعِ, not seven heavens, these seven dimensions, seven universes, then it has liqa'ullah, it comes to meet God. And then the Shaykh mentions the wretched soul. And with the wretched soul, the soul is taken out, and it said, what a cursed and wretched soul you are. Glad tidings of Hamim al-Ghassaq, these are names of torture. وآخر, so then it continues, sorry, I don't want to read the whole hadith, it's quite long. Towards the end of the hadith, فَإِنَّكِ لَا تُفْتَ لَكَ أَبْوَابُ السَّمَاءِ, that these أَبْوَابُ السَّمَاء means the door to these universes, you could say, or these higher realms will not be open for you. فَيُرْسَلُ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ وَيُسِيرُ إِلَى الْقَبْرِ, it's cast down from the sky, and it's returned فَيُسِيرُ إِلَى الْقَبْرِ, and damned into the grave. Ibn Kathir reports that and Ibn Majah report the same narration. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَلَّا إِذَا بَلَغَتِ التَّرَاقِيَ وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ وَظَنَّ أَنَّهُ الْفِرَاقِ وَالْتَفَّتِ السَّاقُ بِالسَّاقِ إِلَى رَبِّكَ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْمَسَاقِ. Yeah. Now, this is another verse supporting this idea. Now, the Shaykh has a discussion on this. وَقِيلَ مَنْ رَاقٍ الْقَائِلِ إِمَّا النَّاسِ وَهُمْ مَنْ حَضَرَ عِنْدَهُ مِنْ أَقَارِبِ وَأَصْحَابِهِ حين رأوه في تلك الحالة فقال كل منهم من يرقيه مما هو فيه رقية يشفي بها ويذهب عنه ما هو فيه من المرض وإن القائل ذلك هم الملائكة عليهم السلام لبعضهم أيكم يرقى بروحه أي يعرج بها إلى السماء. Meaning that the people around the person when he's passing away say, who will bring this soul comfort, cure. And the angels then say amongst themselves, who will take this blessed soul? Who will take this soul to the higher realms? Will it be the angels of mercy, or will it be the angels of damnation and punishment? حَتَّى يَأْمُرُ اللَّهُ أَحَدَهُمَا بِذَلِكَ. Then God decides it's the angels of mercy, meaning this is a pious soul. It's the angels of damnation. It's the angels of punishment that are sent. Meaning when those people around are, meaning his companions, his beloved ones, around him saying, who is going to bring comfort to this soul? Then Allah says to the angels, it's this group or it's that group. Yeah. Yeah. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, وَنَازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, meaning the malaika tanzi'u ruhul kafir bishidda. Nazi'at, meaning naza'a, is the idea of tearing or ripping away or removing. Allah says, وَنَازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, meaning the angels tanzi'u ruhul kafir bishidda, that the angels, they tear the soul out of the disbeliever. وَنَاشِطَاتِ نَشْطًا, but the angels of goodness, or rather the angels have been allotted as the angels of mercy, تنزع روح المؤمن بالسهولة, they take out the soul of the believer بالسهولة والرفق, with absolute peace and comfort. There's no pain that comes upon that person. And then he mentions, rahimahullah ta'ala, another hadith, and the hadith is about the story Bani Israel of the man who killed 99 people. Everybody's heard that hadith, so I don't really want to cover that today. It's a long hadith, and you may have know of it already, of the man amongst Bani Israel who killed 99 people, and then he goes to a person, wants to be forgiven, and the person says, you're not going to be forgiven, and he kills him as well. And the hadith is quite long. Now, I want to look at the hadith of the Messenger of God, alayhi salatu wasalam, about will the soul be taken out with comfort or with pain. Now, if you read Ghazali, Ghazali talks about this idea. So there's a confusion often between the removal of the soul and the daghta fil qabr. They are two different things. Now, some people fear that, oh, everybody feels pain at the point of death. Yeah, there are some narrations that infer that, but there are many more narrations that talk about the soul feeling no pain at the removal of its at the point of its removal. The daghta fil qabr is a different thing. We'll talk about that a bit later. That everybody feels a squeezing or form of squeezing in the grave, and I'll unpack that later. But this moment of death, Ghazali puts a lot of hadith that everybody feels some type of pain, but most of the narrations that we have suggest quite clearly that a believer doesn't feel pain at the point of death, and it's a very soft transition. And we're going to look at some of those hadith. Now, we mentioned last week, what is the purpose of sending angels to the believer or the disbeliever? Why would God need to send angels? God can just remove the soul without any intervention of angels. And the Shaykh mentioned that for the believer, the angels are a comforting factor. There's a story of many of the Salihin, there are many stories of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings comfort to the believer at the point of death. And there's a lot of these stories. Ibn Qayyim records some of them as well. And I mentioned one of Ibn Jawzi. Ibn Jawzi was a famous 6th century scholar of hadith, Abdurrahman Abu Farj al-Jawzi. He's a great scholar, is a contemporary of Abdul Qadir al-Jili of Gilani, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he comes around the same era as Ghazali. Now, there's a story about him when he was dying, that when he's dying, this is a man who wrote, according to some narrations, more than 2,000 works he wrote. And he was dying, and when he's dying, he's moving his hands right and left on either side. And his grandson was there, and he was observing this, and he kept saying, "What do you want me to do with the peacocks?" And he's moving his hands as if he's stroking peacocks. And then he passes away. And the ishara was that they realized that the angels, when they came to him, they were trying to distract him from the removal of his soul. So they wanted to distract him from what was going on. And the Shaykh confirms that idea, that it seems that angels bring comfort to the mu'min, that if you feel that you're going to be alone at that point, they bring comfort that, they're all these blessed angels and all these people, and there's a created environment there where it doesn't seem like you're dying at all or even transitioning, and they kind of distract you from the reality of what's going on. So the believer is brought that comfort, but whereas the disbeliever or the asin, the corrupt person, is not given that environment at all. He's actually fully cognizant of what's going on, that this is happening, that this is what's going on, that my soul is being removed, and now I'm going to be judged. And that's why there's so much panic. And that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَالنَّازِعَاتِ غَرْقًا, quite clearly about when the soul is being removed for that particular person. So the Shaykh mentions some details of that on page 62. He says, قال رسول الله عليه الصلاة والسلام وجلسنا حوله كأن على رؤوسنا الطير وفي يده عود ينكت به في الأرض فرفع رأسه فقال استعيذ بالله من عذاب القبر مرتين أو ثلاث. And the Prophet ﷺ had something like a stick in his hand, and he struck it on the ground, or put it into the ground. So sorry, he took it like a little twig and he put it into the ground. And قال استعيذ بالله من عذاب القبر, seek refuge from the punishment of the grave. And he said that twice. He placed it into the ground. Now there's another hadith in Sahih Muslim where the man is being punished in his grave, and the Prophet ﷺ takes a twig and puts it in and says this will alleviate the punishment of his punishment. So it's an interesting point, but the idea that there is going to be punishment of the grave or in the hereafter. Yeah, and this was after they had put this particular, when he put that into the grave, this was after a man had been put into his grave from the Ansar. The Prophet ﷺ said, إن العبد المؤمن إذا كان في انقطاع من الدنيا إقبال من الآخرة نزل إليه ملائكة من السماء بيض الوجوه كأن وجوههم الشمس معهم كفن من أكفان الجنة وحنوط من حنوط الجنة حتى يجلسوا منه مد البصر ثم يجيء ملك الموت حتى يجلس عند رأسه فيقول أيته النفس الطيبة أخرجي 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 إلى مغفرة من الله ورضوان. The Prophet ﷺ said that in al-abd al-mu'min, a believer, that when you're leaving this world, when the abd leaves this world and he faces the hereafter, an angel comes from the heavens or comes from another realm. That is, Bid al-wujuh means that he is full of light, his face is full of light. كَأَنَّ وُجُوهَهُمْ الشَّمْسِ, as if the sun is reclining in their faces or in his face. مَعْهُمْ كَفَنْ مِنْ أَكْفَانِ الْجَنَّةِ, they have clothes or a kafan, a covering, a garment from that of the people of heaven, of paradise. وَحُنُوت مِنْ حُنُوتِ الْجَنَّةِ, hanata meaning sent from Jannah. And they sit حتى يجلسوا منه مد البصر, they sit where the eye can see, meaning not so far. Then the angel of death comes, meaning they're separate. Then the angel of death comes and then he sits right next to him, meaning they're already sitting, you can see them, meaning it's as if he's in a place where there's a presence of these angelic forms, and then the angelic form of the angel of death comes and he says, "O pure soul, leave to the forgiveness of your Lord and his pleasure." Yeah. فَتُخْرَجُ تسيل كما تسيل القطرة من فم السقاء أي بسهولة ورفق. And so his soul is removed and it flows out of the person as if a drop falls out of leaves your mouth. A drop when you're drinking water and some remnants of that falls out of your mouth, it's as easy as that. It's as easy as that. فيأخذها ملك الموت, the angel will take the soul. فإذا أخذها لم يدعوها أي لم يتركوها في يده طرف عين حتى يأخذوها فيجعلوها في ذلك الكفن. Meaning they take it and they don't take their eyes away from it and they clothe this wonderful soul. Yeah. And then it continues of how nice it smells. And then it passes by masses of angels. What's interesting here is that this is the first experience that the soul has of this other dimension, which he couldn't see before because it was veiled from us. And now you can see actually that the sky is full of angels. All of these different entities that God created of angelic form are everywhere. Yeah. And they say, "What is this blessed soul?" And then it's taken away until it gets to the seventh station, I would call it. And فيقول Allah says, "Uktubu kitab abdi fi illiyin," meaning write his name in the illiyin. Illiyin is a particular rank. وَعِيدُ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ, now take him back. فَإِنِّي مِنْهَا خَلَقْتُهُمْ وَفِيهَا أُعِيدُهُمْ وَمِنْهَا أُخْرِجُهُمْ تَارَةً أُخْرَى. Allah says, now take him back to the earth. Meaning, take the soul back into, and there's different stations of barzakh, into a particular part of barzakh. For it's from the earth I created him. وَفِيهَا أُعِيدُهُمْ, from the earth I will recreate him, or it. From the earth I will remove him again. فَتُعَادُ رُوحُهُ فِي جَسَدِهِ, it's placed back where the body was. فَيَأْتِيهِ مَلَكَانِ, two angels come, meaning it's put back into the grave. فَيُجْلِسَانِهِ, they both make him sit. فَيَقُولَانِ لَهُ مَنْ رَبُّكَ, and then they begin to ask the questions of the grave, which we'll move on to inshallah. Before that, I just want to talk about briefly an issue of a couple of masail muta'alliqa. The first mas'ala is a person aware when their body is being washed? That's the first question. I have not found anything specific that when the body is being washed, that the person is cognizant of that necessarily. I haven't found anything specific. There's a hadith that states that have rifq, be careful of how you wash the dead, for they can feel the meaning the way that you treat the body, meaning pressing it, etc. This is a debatable hadith, number one. It's been debated what that refers to, because another mas'ala muta'alliqa with that is what's the hukam on what is the hukam on organ donation at that point, and that's an important topic. I'm going to come on to that, but I haven't found anything to suggest that once a person dies, it seems all the evidence is pointed towards the fact that when they die, their soul's taken, khalas, it goes through all these stages. Okay, it goes through these stages where it ascends, angels take, and then it's returned according to this narration and other narrations when the questioning begins in the grave. And there's a shahid in many hadith for that. For instance, the hadith Imam Ahmed that states that the person rubs his eyes and he's in the grave. That's one shahid. There's another few evidences for that as well that infers that that you can hear the walking away, the footsteps of. But that's the first introduction, the walking away, and that's a point of return, it seems. In terms of organ donation, هذا مسألة مختلفة المختلف فيه, that this is an issue that's been differed upon by the ulama. I take the position that organ donations for people is completely permissible after they die. This is the position of the majority of fatwa councils in the world now. The Fatwa Council, the Mawsu'a, the position of the Egyptian Fatwa Council, and majority now in the world of ulama are headed that way now. Shaykh Ibrahim al-Yaqubi, rahimahullah ta'ala, in the 670s, wrote an entire book proving that it's permissible for organs, for one to give their organs after they pass away. Wrote a whole risala on this topic. It's available in Arabic. So there is a khilaf. Earlier ulama had an issue with it. But now the ulama, many of them have come around to the fact that it's an act of altruism, actually, that it's an act of altruism, that it's in fact rewarded, it's mustahab if somebody gives it. It's not sinful or haram like the other group of ulama hold. There are still a group of ulama that hold this impermissible, full disclosure. There are ulama that consider it haram, that it's against the sanctity of the body, and it's muthla. But I believe the ulama, the majority are moving towards now the fact that it is permissible. You can go check it out yourself now. Many of the fatwa boards have given that fatwa now. Like I said, there is still a bit of khilaf on it. I go with the position of the ulama who say it's completely permissible to donate one's organs after they pass away. And this idea that, oh, my body will be in pain, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe there's any evidence for that at all, actually, of any kind. In fact, the evidence points the other way. Remember, there's only two ways of organ donation. Either one considers it haram, or they consider it mustahab. There's no mubah in the middle. It's either mustahab is praiseworthy. You don't have to give your organs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what if one does? What's the hukam? So a little while ago, I saw this message going around virally on WhatsApp saying, oh, everybody opt out of the NHS is haram. See, people shouldn't, if you're not with the ulama, or you're not people who are qualified, don't spread messages or send them of things that haram, or you think they're haram. The ulama have a clear khilaf on this issue. And I said the majority are going one way now. That's not to say there are ulama ajilla on the other side. There are ulama that Habib Umar, for instance, as far as I'm aware, still considers it impermissible. So there are ulama out there, but like I said, there are kibar min ulama, great ulama that are alive today. Shaykh Ibrahim al-Yaqubi had that position as well. I said in the 70s, maybe the 60s even. I don't know the exact date when he published his book. So this is a khilaf amongst the ulama. Stop spreading messages that it's haram, unless you hold that position and you can back it up. And I don't think most of the public know any of the issue itself. So be careful of that. Now I want to go over some more points here. And they are the next section, which is on الناس على مراتب في لقاء ربهم سبحانه وتعالى, that when one meets their Lord, there are different people are of different ranks in meeting their Lord, different ranks. He says, هنالك, rahmullah ta'ala says, هنالك نوع, there's a group of people here that we're going to talk about, that will meet their Lord with this idea of tahiyya and takreem, with nobility, and they will meet their Lord with greetings, with God's pleasure. Allah says in the Quran, وَتَحِيَّتُهُمْ يَوْمَ يَلْقَوْنَهُ سَلَامٌ وَأَعَدَّ لَهُمْ أَجْرًا كَرِيمًا. So they will meet him يَلْقَوْنَهُ with salam, with peace, and in it for them is a noble reward. Now, the Shaykh mentions different ranks, but before we get to that, there's a wonderful hadith of Sayyidah Aisha. The Prophet ﷺ said to her, he said, قال من أحب لقاء الله أحب الله لقاءه ومن كره لقاء الله كره الله لقاءه. Whoever wishes, loves, wants to meet their Lord, Allah wants to meet them, and whoever does not want to meet Allah, Allah does not want to meet them. Sayyidah Aisha said, a very intelligent question, she said, فَكُلُّنَا يَكْرَهُ الْمَوْتِ. We all don't, none of us want to die. All of us hate to die. Nobody is going to say today, unless they have some serious things going on in their life, that, I want to die. I want to meet my Lord. Like, who says that? So does that mean that because I don't want to die, and does that mean that my Lord doesn't want to meet me? That was her question. And the Prophet ﷺ said, no. He said, لَيْسَ كَذَلِكَ, meaning you didn't understand. The understanding you took from my words was not what I intended for you to take. وَلَكِنَّ الْمُؤْمِنِ إِذَا بُشِّرَ بِرَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ وَرِضْوَانِهِ وَجَنَّتِهِ. No, this is talking about when you're at the point of death and this other dimension is revealed to you. The Prophet ﷺ said, when one is given glad tidings of the mercy of Allah and His pleasure and His garden, then at that point when he sees all of this, أَحَبَّ لِقَاءَ اللَّهِ فَأَحَبَّ اللَّهُ لِقَاءَهُ. He wants to meet God and God wants to meet him. It's at that point. But the kafir, when he's given the news of adhab, punishment, then he does not want to meet Allah. Allah does not want to meet him. So it's in relation to that moment. And he goes on and he quotes Qadi Ayyad, for instance. قال قاضي أياد رحمه الله تعالى فهمت السيدة عائشة رضي الله عنها أن هذا خبر أما يكون من الأمرين في حال الصحة فقالت كلنا يكره الموت. She understood by this these two different affairs, and we talked about the Prophet ﷺ unpacking and explaining that, and the Prophet ﷺ answering this idea that ليس كذلك, that this is not the case, rather that this is the case when أما يكون من ذلك in the نزع, when the soul is being removed. وفي وقت لا يقبل فيه التوبة. There's a moment that tawbah is not accepted, and that's in the sakarat al-maut, when this other dimension of barzakh is revealed to you. At that point, no tawbah will be accepted from the person. إن الله تعالى يكشف له عن كل ما يصير له, that God will show him everything that's going to happen now. فأهل السعادة يرون ما يحبون فيحبون لقاء الله تعالى. The أهل السعادة, the people of felicity, then get to see this and what they begin to love the meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he's got some other points on that. Then the Shaykh mentions a few other hadith, and one of them he quotes the riwayah from Tirmidhi. The riwayah فيه نظر يعني فيه نظر, but the riwayah is there, and the riwayah is from Jabir ibn Abdullah, and he said, we met the Messenger of God, وأنا مهتم, فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما لي أراك منكسر. He said, I was feeling a little downtrodden, I felt a little sad. Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said, what's wrong with you? He said, استشهد أبي يوم أحد. He said, my father passed away on the day of Uhud. And he left عيالا ودين, and he left family members and a little bit of debt. The Prophet ﷺ, should I not give you glad tidings that how your father met Allah Jalla wa Ala? He said, please. He said, ما كلم الله أحدا قط إلا من وراء حجاب. Allah speaks to nobody except behind a veil. وإنه أحيا أباك فكلمه كفاحا, meaning he resurrected your father and he talked to him without any veil. Ya abdi, he said, oh my servant, wish for whatever you want, I will give it to you. He said, oh my Lord, revive me, resurrect me again, and I will die in your path again. And Allah said, that's not going to happen. Allah said, Inna sabaq al-qawl minni. I have said, that's my final statement. Allah says that nobody will return. And then the verse was revealed, وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا. Do not think those who died in God's path are actually have passed away. He says Ibn Mardawayh and Bayhaqi also narrate this and narrate in the Tafsir Ibn Kathir. Now I want to finish with different people meeting Allah Jalla wa'ala. What are their stations? And those who Allah are not happy to meet Allah, Allah is not happy to meet them, and some of those types. Maybe this will encourage us to pray. There's a hadith that Bazar and Tabarani mentioned, and it's a good isnad, it's got a good chain. And this is a narration of Anas ibn Malik. Anas ibn Malik became blind at the end of his. Anas ibn Malik is a companion, a great companion who was quite young in the lifetime of the Prophet. He said, when I lost my eyesight, the doctor said to me, Nudawika wa tada salat ayyaman. They said, we're going to give you some medicine and you're going to have to miss your prayer for some days. He said, La. He said, no way. Inna Rasulullah alayhi salatu wa salam qala, Man taraka salata laki Allah wa huwa alayhi ghadban. So whoever leaves it, of course, this was permissible for him. You can't do that. The doctor said you'll be under for a while and you miss your prayer, the fuqaha. But he was a bit worried about it for himself. And he said, and although this is not the meaning of the actual narration, but he, because of his piety, and he was very old at that time as well. For Man taraka salata, whoever leaves a prayer, the Prophet said, Laki Allah wa huwa alayhi ghadban, will meet God and God is angry with him. And then he quotes another hadith as well, a similar hadith. And then he talks about people who leave this world and they've oppressed other people by taking their land. All those from the subcontinent take heed. It's quite common in our tradition, in our culture, people taking each other's lands away. Man ghasaba rajulan ardan dhulman laqi Allah wa alayhi ghadman. Whoever steals another person's land and then he meets Allah, he will meet Allah and Allah is angry with him. There's another hadith as well. Later, the one who takes somebody's money and then swears that he didn't take it. He takes an oath. The Prophet ﷺ said, Man halafa ala mali imra'in. Whoever swears or breaks his promise, ala mali imra'in muslimin bighayri haqqi. Whoever swears, takes an oath about taking somebody Muslim's wealth without that was belonged to him, he will meet Allah, meaning he takes it unlawfully. He will meet Allah, meaning he breaks his promise essentially. He will meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and Allah is angry, i.e. whoever swears, takes a yameen, takes an oath, but his oath is false essentially. Afwan. Allah says in the Quran, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَشْتَرُونَ بِأَهْدِ اللَّهِ, those people who buy something, يَشْتَرُونَ بِأَهْدِ اللَّهِ, by taking an oath, وَأَيْمَانِهِمْ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا, meaning for a meager price, meaning that they've taken an oath but they've lied, they have taken a pact with somebody and then they have broken that pact and taken an oath that they didn't break it, meaning they steal somebody's money in business. They say to their business partner, I didn't make such a promise, when they clearly did knowingly. These people have sold away their religion essentially. And the Prophet ﷺ said, these people who meet Allah and Allah is angry with them. In another hadith, Man ta'addama fi nafsi aw ikhtala fi mashiyatihi laki Allah ta'ala wa huwa alayhi ghadban. Whoever ta'addama fi nafsi, he thinks he's better than everybody else. Ta'addama fi nafsihi, he's arrogant, he will meet Allah and Allah is ghadban with him. Allah is angry with him. And then he mentions a few other hadith of a similar type. Inshallah, we'll stop there for today. And then next week we move on to further questions of the grave. And we talk about the na'im and the adhab of the qabr, more about the grave inshallah. It's a very long section that may take two sessions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.